This is Van Electric Ghost, and we're live on the air with Neat Music. Is that the way I should say it?
Yes, you could call me Neat. Yes.
Neat. Okay. And we're here to talk about like using music to reclaim identity and as inner strength. Put that up as like the title.
Yes.
And we love to talk to people who are musicians or creative people, singer songwriters, because it's that's our jam. We're a musician ourselves, but we like to just hear people's stories about creative spark and why they want to bring their vision of art to the world. So it's cool to have you here with us.
Thank you so
We want to let people know a couple of things before we get started. We do have a QR code up there, and that is for Podmatch, because Podmatch is how we actually connected. So what we want to have people, if they want to figure out how to get guests, or if you're a host, how do you connect with guests on a podcast? You take your phone and QR code, scan that, and you can learn about what's important in terms of the podcast world. Being able to connect with people is cool. But we want to let you know um, that we're going to have your QR code up later in the episode, and that'll be right to your the link you have for your link tree. But
Okay.
right now, we have that one. But when we get to the heart of your story, what made you want to be a musician?
Growing up, it wasn't even like, like a childhood dream, to be honest. It's like music found me when I was going through hard times in my life. It started really when I was younger. I was a teenager and I just heard music that I wasn't supposed to hear. Since I'm Indian, I'm Punjabi. We were
Mm,
raised to listen to religious music and, forget hip hop and R&B, even little like pop songs we couldn't.
couldn't listen to anything.
The most I ever got from my dad was a Britney Spears cassette tape at that time.
Oh wow.
Extreme already for us, but when I discovered music, that's when I felt like, it was in something in there for me to speak about. And then the fact that I wasn't allowed to do it. It looked down upon, like proper girls from good families. So we're supposed to be doctors and lawyers, right? The
Oh,
typical.
so yeah, being an artist is like, oh, that's not a proper job.
No, it's not. And then, especially for girls, women didn't have a voice back then either. Forget like expression through art.
Mm,
It looked bad. It's vulgar to sing, it's vulgar to dance in front of people, stuff like that. And for me, it didn't sit well with me because I'm like, why can't I do it?
yeah,
Then
I see.
oh, I had a friend who was a DJ, but he was also kind of scared to come out, but he was a boy. So it was okay. But he
Was he
used to
kind of doing it underground? Like he wasn't really letting people know he was doing it.
out and tell people in the open. He was asking my permission, like, should I do this? Because I was brave, considered. So I was like, you got to do it. You got to do it. And then eventually I just wrote a song. He played me a beat. And that's when I first realized that, hey, you know what? Like, whatever I'm feeling, I just put it into this song. And it just clicked in my head that this is something that felt so natural to me. And that was the first time I felt like, okay, this is how my voice can be heard. And nobody was doing that at that time. I'm from Thailand. I was born and raised in Thailand. I'm the fifth generation there. So I'm Thai Sikh. Um,
Oh,
yeah. So the thing is, we're Indian, but we're Thai. We're Thai, but we're Indian. So my brother in law used to say something. He said, we're Thai product in Indian packaging.
oh wow. So
Yeah.
did was so what part of your culture, the culture that was kind of suppressing your creative, was it on both sides? Was it on the Thai and the Indian side, or just one side that was suppressing like your creative?
That would be my Indian side because although we were in Thailand, we followed the typical, I'm Sikh, so we followed that religion, we followed the Indian traditions. And so that was the side where we weren't allowed to speak up, and women and children didn't have a voice. So
Wow.
then I started a group called Freedom of Expression Project. And I was like, this is where I'm going to fight against that. And it was a tough fight because, I was like almost like excommunicated. People were telling their kids not to be friends with me because I was too loud. I was not like a typical
You
Indian
weren't
girl.
scared too much
Yeah.
outspoken. Well, it's like the artist can, like in the U.S. We had this blacklist thing that happened in the 50s, and we
Okay.
still have kind of like some of that going on today because things kind of come around. And so,
Right.
like, there's this idea, like, a lot of parents, especially if you're a parent's like a professional, if they're
Mm,
like a doctor or a lawyer or professor,
yeah,
they might want to say, well, go be an engineer, go get your doctorate.
yes,
And if you're
absolutely.
a musician, you're like, or you're a painter, like, why are you doing that?
Exactly. It doesn't exist at all for them. Like it's not an option, is what I mean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they may have a path like you have a path where it's like they want you to marry or they
Yes.
want you to go get a degree. They
Yes.
want you to, be in this circle. And if you're an artist, this circle frowns on artists, so they
Yes.
don't want to be able to present their child, you know,
Yeah, it's
somebody,
betraying
yeah.
to the family name, especially if you're like, and the Thai Sikh community is actually pretty small in Thailand. So
Hmm.
everybody knows everybody and stuff like that. So it's very
A lot of
important.
pressure.
But then that also led to me coming here to America, because I was like, I started to do my music. I started doing a few shows and stuff like that. And then I said, I'm gonna go to America and pursue my music. And also, I believe that in America, there's justice and women's rights and
Yeah,
children's rights and stuff. So I said, I was on
it's
like a,
supposed to be.
supposed to be, I'll get to that later on. Trust me, that's where the song Rise comes from, right?
Yeah.
I come here of that dream thinking I'm going to rescue my women and children and show them because they used to come backstage in Thailand and say, "You're so brave. We can't believe you're doing this." Like those are the spark moments for me, you
Yeah,
know.
that's meant to make you feel good. Like, and when you're kind of like a pioneer, right?
Yeah,
When you pushing the envelope, and the thing is, artists tend to be in that category. For a person to actually become an artist, you
yeah,
have to be able to get beyond that. Like a person, a lot of people, if you're in a classroom, right? The kids who don't raise their hand
right.
because they're scared of what's going to happen. The artist has to get beyond that. You
Yeah,
have to be able to have your voice, and somebody might say they don't like it, but
right.
you don't
Exactly.
care because
You
like
have to
you,
know you. Yeah, I totally get it.
yeah, because that's super important because like that's the permission starter structure, of an artist that allows you to say, like, you know what, I actually don't want to be a cover band, I want to write my own song, right?
Yeah,
I have something to say, and it's my voice, I don't need a ghostwriter, right? I have
yeah,
something I want to say. And so
exactly.
that's a different type of person than the person that just wants to, maybe, like, I want to just be a singer, versus the
Mm,
person who's a
that's
singer
so cool.
songwriter that actually has something that they want to say.
The story behind it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's I always been very interested in the singer songwriter
yeah,
that has a vision of what they want to do.
right. So this leads me to what happened over here that led to my single Rise, right? I came over here, the story changed from fighting for women and children's rights to me becoming the victim of
Mm,
domestic violence and coercive control. And it was a horrible time. I felt like I disappeared off the face of the earth for years and years, being under somebody's control, trying to erase me from the world and stuff like that. Took me years after to like recuperate and spent a lot of time getting to know myself again. I remember telling my producer just like a year ago, like, wow, I feel like I'm learning new things about myself every day. And, that's how I feel like I got that song Rise, because I feel like, people try to erase your voice, right? And I felt helpless. I feel like, how do I do this? How do I save my child when nobody's listening to me, when the
mm.
system has failed me horribly? And, my child is suffering. Now nobody's listening. I'm like, let me put it back into what I know best. It's to my lyrics, put into my song. And that's how this song tells the story of my struggle of becoming the victim myself, but how I rose above it, get by getting in touch with who I really was to begin with.
Yeah, it's like there's a thing, I was always interested in a lot of literature, and this concept of the looking glass self that came from like the Victorians. It's that you
Mm,
look in the mirror, right?
right.
And you look into a lot of artists, like we challenge that person that looking back, right?
Yeah.
And we try to uncover like what is going on, and we
Right.
don't bury it. I mean, we buried it, but there's a point where there's like there's a crucible moment in your life where there's the stuff that you feel bad about. There's like shame, there's
Hmm.
disappointment, there's like PTSD. There's all these things that have happened, and
Traumatic.
you get traumas that happen, and you push them down. But artists, we pull into them and
Yeah.
use that as our
Driving
impetus.
force. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like the gold that we mine to
Yeah.
create our work.
Yes, that's true. It's the fuel behind everything. It sparks us, like, whether it's pain, it's happiness, because like the next song, like for example, is a totally different vibe. That
Mm.
actually talk is more about my Punjabi mixed with the hip hops or R&B style. So yeah, you're right about that. It sparks different sides of you also. We
Yeah,
try to,
'cause go
yeah,
ahead. But every song kind of has its own like whatever serves the song. It's like certain
yeah,
emotions, certain like so if you have like something you're going through, you struggle through the pain you went through, you're breaking through, you're rising up. That's
yeah,
that emotion. But then,
exactly.
other types of emotions could be something that's more upbeat, more danceable, more but it still tells a story. The thing I like about writers, right, is like, an author tells a story and it's like 60,000 to 200,000 words. A
Yeah.
musician tells a story in it's 2 or 3 minutes.
Yes,
It's
yes,
still a story.
yeah. But
So you
it's
have
like
to
poetry almost. It's just concise.
yeah, you still it's like we're all storytellers. It's just that you have a framework that's not as big as the filmmaker, it's not as big as a writer, but it still can draw people in the same way.
Yeah. And that's also where the visual comes and it helps. Like that's where like people like to make the video to match with it because sometimes they want to tell, like me, for example, let me speak for myself. The song Rise is powerful on its own. But when I made that video, for me, that was the missing link because
Mm,
that was also a closure. A lot of people don't know this, of course, is that I went back to the actual place that it happened, you
mm.
know, shoot that video. And
Oh,
I
through
went
the
back.
video. You actually did that? You went to the actual place.
Yes, where it actually happened, where they threw me out of my own house, lied to the police and took my child. Like it was horrible. But I
Wow.
went there because I wanted to face it. Because that was when a narrative was created about me for me. A
Mm,
story about me was written for me. That's when it started. And it didn't click to me because now I'm learning myself again. So I wanted to go back there as myself,
mm.
feel that. And I took my child with me to where it all began.
That's really important. That's deep because a lot of times people, today's world, like the artifice of what you create, your people
Mm.
are wondering like how true is that, you know?
Yeah.
And then if you're an artist and it's like, hey, I want to tell my story and this is actually real. Like
Yes.
this is not a made up sound stage.
Mhm.
This is
Yeah.
actually the real thing. That's super critical. Like, and people watching the show like maybe didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's what's cool when you talk to an artist. Like it's like, hey, this they're telling you something, and like the deeper vision of what you're saying is important.
Yeah, like even the scenes of like the stairways and stuff, all of that is the actual place that I had to sit and wait to go in to see my child. Like it was actually, what's crazy is that it wasn't traumatic for me when I went back there. It was empowering.
Powering because you've totally. I think when you come to terms with something, like when
Yeah.
you look at yourself and you
Yeah.
have a lesson learned, instead of like sometimes what happens, people go through things and they get in a bad loop
Mm.
and they keep on repeating the same thing, and then they're like, well, I'm going to go somewhere else, right? But you are still following you.
Yes,
If you
exactly.
don't actually solve the problem in yourself, you can move anywhere in the world, and
Hmm.
you are still going to be the common denominator. Like it's you. Uh,
Exactly. It all goes back to that, like you knowing yourself. I know it's so everybody says that it's such a common term, love yourself, know yourself, but it is really, really deep
but it's
because
hard.
but with that comes everything else because with that comes you knowing how you want to be treated or what things, basic things that you like, what you laugh at, I love getting to know myself. That's definitely one of the best parts of this journey. It's like when I went back there, knowing who I am now, That's why it made me feel empowered because I'm like, that's not my story. I'm
Hmm.
now with my story.
But when
This is,
you own it, like when you start to own like
yeah,
yourself, like you own and you set boundaries, right?
mm,
You set like yeah, you set goals, you have
yeah,
visions, you have you know where you want to go, and that's hard because a lot of times, some people times you're kind of stuck, like I
mhm,
said, in a bad loop,
yeah,
or you have this like you have an identity problem where you're a people pleaser, or you just didn't you keep on attracting. It's like law of attraction. Like if you're vibrating with like in terms of like a musical term, if you're vibrating with like dissonance or
hmm,
discordance,
right,
your life around you is probably going to be discordant. It's probably going to be full of noise. It's probably going to have no harmony in it. When
yeah.
you start to figure out how to be more harmonious, then the law of attraction will kind of bring that same vibe around you. That's the way I look at it. But like, does that ring true to you?
Yes, 100%. I'm a big believer of energy and vibrations. And I really think that what we vibrate out is what we get back. Because when you want to stay on a certain level, you can, and a lot of people do it through meditation. But really, what it is being able to control your mind to create that energy that you want. Again,
Mhm.
it comes back to knowing yourself and what vibrations you want for yourself. But I do believe in, like, the energy bouncing back and believing in what type of energy you want for yourself.
Yeah, it's interesting because as a musician, we can see it in real time. Like
Yeah.
if you play in front of a crowd and you do something very harmonious and very, you
Mhm.
know, aspirational, it's positive, right? The crowd
Right.
will bring out the lighters and the phones and they got the flashlights and everybody's like
A lot.
waving.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you're like, a different type of music, like if you're a grunge or a punk band and you got the mosh pit, it's a
Hmm. Yeah.
different energy, right?
Right.
But it's still you're putting out a frequency and vibrations that create that energy is
Yeah.
more discordant, but it's like that's what you wanted.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so, like, when you learn, like, your voice is an instrument, and so
Right.
when you put out a vibe or a frequency that's gonna bring like affirmation or
Yeah.
positivity or like emotional intelligence, that's gonna come through what you're doing, right?
Right. And it goes a lot for personal stuff too. Like, for example, when you're going through something, um, when, for example, how you are aware of that situation, how you want to react to it. You don't have to feed into other negative energies, what I'm trying to say. If somebody gives
Mhm.
something to you, you can by being aware, reject that energy and
Yeah,
convert it into your own energy,
it's like emotional judo.
Yeah, well, you know, I think it's important because, like, I think that, a lot of times there's bad energy around you, and you have to know how to block that out. Like, for example, like as an artist, right? If I want to express myself, there's a lot of people that have a lot of comments or a lot of stuff to say. I can't allow that to dictate what I'm going to do next with my art,
Yeah. Yeah,
you
but you
know?
gotta know where you're gonna be because a
Yeah.
lot of times it's interesting in the arts is like if once you get something that works,
Right.
the artifice around you wants you to keep on just repeating that.
Yeah.
And
That's,
the hard thing as an artist is like if you know that you don't want to repeat it,
yeah.
that's gonna cause trouble because like the whole machine around you is gonna want you to repeat it. And if you don't, they're not gonna really support it. But you gotta know what you want to do.
Yeah.
And so it's a balance.
Right, right. But that's the best form of art when it's genuine. So
Yeah,
that's why, like, I feel like as long as you stay true to yourself, you're able to express yourself the way you want to, then the people will feel your art. That energy goes into your art. And when people hear it, like, for example, when they hear my song, I hope they can feel that energy behind the voice and the music of where I want to take them with me, you know?
I think it's really important because when you're like when I was listening to your song and there's a vulnerability in the story you're telling, it's not just talking about some say theoretical or idealized relationship. You're telling stuff that you're giving like some vulnerability. You're showing a piece. You're giving us a story that is your story,
Yes.
So when people hear that, they say, "Well, that's authentic." And when
Yes.
people feel authentic, a musician's like, "Hey, that's not some ghostwriter or somebody else wrote that. That's
Yeah.
you wrote it, and
Yes.
it's you feel it, and you're expressing that story." And that to me is super powerful when you can do that, and it's not just, trying to, some music today, some art today is kind of about shock value.
Yeah.
It's kind of let's like, oh, let's get the clicks, let's get
Yeah.
the algorithm,
Mhm.
let's get something controversial. But like,
Right.
is it really telling a story? Is it
Right.
really saying anything? And
The
I kind of I like what you're doing.
Thank you so much. I could tell you one thing, like to reassure you, every line in that song is true. Like even, like every little thing you're like, oh, she's just talking in general. No, it's
No,
true.
that's I was listening. It's like this feels like a story, and it feels like a story that you experienced. Kind of
Yes.
like when you listen to some songwriters and they evoke these things, especially like the songwriters from like the 60s and the 70s.
Yes.
The singer songwriters like the Carole Kings,
Hmm.
like the Karen Carpenters. They had these stories and were like, wow, they really pulled your heartstrings, and you're
Yes.
like, that feels real.
Yeah.
You get drawn in. It's like that really feels like that's something that they went through.
Yeah.
Um, and then you just feel like, wow, I want that. It becomes a soundtrack of your life because then you find something in it that equates to your life. And,
Yes.
like, I felt the same thing. So there's, like, this, I don't know, it's just like, people have this sense of, I don't know, that they have empathy
Yeah.
or connection.
Yeah, yeah. I can totally understand that. After I just released Rise, I had a conversation with somebody, and they told me that when they heard the song, it sparked something in them. That they went through something, not the same situation, of course, but somehow they were able to align that song with what's
Mhm.
going on in their life, and it inspired them and all of that, and that really is where I get my strength from. Hearing that, for somebody to say that to me, that fulfills everything that I wanted. So yeah, I understand what you're saying by it aligns with people that listen to it to what they're going through in their life.
Well, I think, like, creativity is so important because, like, I find that art is very cathartic.
Mm,
And, I tend to use, my process of creating art to kinda work through things,
yeah.
like art therapy. Like, some people who aren't artists, might go to a therapist and the therapist will say, "Well, journal or
Mm,
or start drawing or
right.
paint out what you feel." And I think artists, we just naturally tend to go that way
Yes.
because we find a way to take that and don't keep it in. And then
Yeah.
we also, like, we're pulling, like, what's within and what's without, right?
Right.
So you're very attentive to artists tend to be very attentive to the things that go on around them and
Mm-hmm.
then the things that go on inside them. And then
Yes.
they synthesize it into this magical thing that is the art.
It's so funny you say magical thing that's dark because it's so true in its own way because we have our like see how rises, right? It's dark because of the story that happened, but the magical thing that came out of it is the song. So I understand what you mean, like how we just put our art, and I think artists are very emotional. Do
Yeah.
you agree with me on
Yeah,
that?
every artist I've ever met is very, has a lot of deep thoughts that
Mhm.
when you talk to them, it's not like they're not just gonna talk about the weather.
Right. Yeah,
They're not
yeah.
gonna say, like, "Well, how's that sports team going?" Like, they actually go to places that might make people uncomfortable.
Yeah,
'Cause they
that's
when I deal with the artists, it's like they wanna talk about things that some people's like, "Oh, I don't know,
yeah,
because
right.
it's like it's heavy, right?
Hmm.
And that's why people get threatened by artists,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you were talking about earlier, it's like there was this to keep women from doing the art
yeah.
is because it's a radical thing if you actually allow people to have expression because 'cause they're gonna say things that you don't agree with.
Right, of
And they're
course.
gonna be people who have positions because they keep other people from expressing themselves.
Oh
And so as
yeah.
soon as you go into that, you're challenging the status quo, you're challenging the structure. And so, artists are always criticized for challenging things because that's our nature is to be like a why not.
Right. Like we're always asking out of the box question. We're always challenging and stuff like that. But see, that's how art is created though, right? It's created through like different ideas, breaking the ceiling. Otherwise, how else is creativity creative, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's super important for women to be able to be in the arts and to be have a voice. And there are some folks that in our country today that like they don't want women to have voices. And I've always I had a lot of women singer songwriters on my show because all the male bands is like they have a lot of ways to get a lot of attention.
Right.
But like women artists have a hard time in the industry because there's all these preconceptions.
Oh,
Like
yes.
there's all this, they want to put you in a box. They want to push a certain image, and
Yeah.
it's not always what you want to do as as an artist.
Right, right. They try to categorize you, or they try to have expectations from you, and then it makes you think as an artist too. Like I did think about all that because, like I said, I did music before and like disappeared off the face of the earth for like years. So when I came back, I thought about that. Like what are people gonna say? Like why is she? Oh, now she's still doing it. All that stuff. But at the end of the day, I did it for me.
Hmm.
know. I didn't do it like to please anybody. If it helps or pleases anybody, that's great.
Yeah,
But
if it
what I
aligns.
yeah, but I did it because that's how at that point I felt helpless, right? I felt like I couldn't help my child. And as a mother, the feeling of not being able to help your child is probably like the worst thing in the
Yeah, it's
world.
a bad thing. I'm
So
a parent, so I know what you mean. Like if you have when your child is sick and you got to bring it to a doctor and you don't have control. If
exactly.
you're in a situation where you see them going through something hurtful, it's
Yes.
like you want to wrap a blanket around them and protect them. Is like, and sometimes you can't because like, oh, they got to go to school.
Yeah, yeah.
And like once they're out of the house, I can do so much.
Yeah.
If they're out of my control, if somebody else has got them, or if they don't let me see them, or they're stuck in some kind of thing, they're like I can't always be there, and so that's always a pressure as a parent. That's always hard to deal with.
Yeah, of course. So I try my best to like, we don't want the children to be stressed out. So I just always try to act like everything's okay. But when it comes time, like you said, I put my creativity into my music, as much as I can. That's where I put my pain, everything. So
I think it's a good way to stay grounded, because people say, well, how do you stay grounded as an artist when you deal with like personal stress and things? And to me, like the act of creating keeps me grounded because
yeah.
I'm not trying, like you said, I'm not trying to do it to get into to hit this metric.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah, I think a lot of people maybe when they get into it, like especially if you're young, you get into it. It's like, well, I'm gonna be like, in the top 10 would be this big star when you're like 16, 17. And
Right.
you're wanting to say, I'm gonna come out like the Beatles.
Right.
And then you start realizing like, well, maybe you're not. And
Hmm.
then there's a lot of people like I'm 58. And there were a
Yeah.
lot of guys when I was 17, they all thought they were going to be like, Earth, Wind, Fire, Beatles or whatever. They didn't really get there and they just never picked up their instrument again.
Mm.
But they didn't really the thing that I found with those guys is like they were trying to get to something and the music really wasn't that important because they don't do it now.
Right.
So if you're still doing it because music is important to you because you love music.
Right, I understand what you mean because it's like even though I went through like that crazy phase in my life, look, I came right back to my music. So for people that really have it in them, I think they eventually always turn back to it.
Yeah,
You
it's
know?
just there. Like it's just like breathing. Like I talk to like jazz guys or guys like who are in New Orleans,
Yeah.
and you might not even know who they are, right? You
Right.
got guys that are like 70 years old. They've been
Hmm.
playing since they were like 15,
Wow.
and they never got super big, but
Hmm.
they still feel that spark and they're still playing.
Exactly, because for the love of it.
Yeah.
They're not doing it really to impress. They're doing it because
And
the
then
love of
people have come around and now they've got fans and people come around the world to go see them and
it.
they've
Yeah.
got like a niche and
Right,
so
right.
they're respected. But it's like that comes because like you were passionate and so it comes to you. There's like law of attraction again. Like
Yes, yes,
the people, your tribe will come around you.
yeah. Right. That's true. That's true. I definitely believe in that 100%.
Yeah, I
So I
think
yeah.
so. It's interesting. Like, so you put a lot of energy into promoting Rise, but like any artist, you probably have a lot of other things, that you're working on or in the can or in development. So,
Yes.
like, do you feel like today that you have to focus on like one single at a time, or you're working toward an EP, or you're working toward an album? Like, what's your strategy toward things like that?
So I am about to do an EP or an album. We are deciding on that, but definitely dropping the second single in the next couple of weeks.
Hmm.
A Valentine song.
Oh, cool.
Just- yeah. So it's different from Rise, but I think it'll be a fun one. But that's my plan, is to do my album, and all these songs are definitely gonna come from a real place and tell the story of where I came from and who I am. And I hope that people get to know me through these songs. I'm excited for that as well. Like being able to put all these songs that I'm working on, put them down and for everybody to hear it and share it, you know. Yeah.
So
And
is
one,
your
yeah, go ahead.
so is your promotional tour, like you're doing podcasts probably to promote? Are you gonna actually perform at festivals or shows, or do you have a plan for that?
Yes. After maybe like the second single, we're looking to do like around here in America, maybe start with the West Coast in LA where I'm shooting my second single. So we're planning to do the show there first. And then I'm planning to go back to Thailand maybe. Whenever I do go back to Thailand, that'll be the my first international one.
Well, that'd be cool.
Yeah. So I'm finishing my master's this year, in a couple of months. So hopefully, because after that I'll have a little bit more time to kind of travel through the United States to do shows in different cities. And then, from there we have a big population of Indians in the UK as well, and in Canada. So those are definitely places that I want to visit, and then
Yeah,
going back home is going to be a big one, because like it'll be like, wow, you see, like, because then now I could show my girls that if you wanted to do it, you can do it. There's no
yeah, yeah,
shame.
yeah. Because sometimes you have to leave and then
Yeah.
come back. Because that's kind of like the story of a lot of artists. Is like, Jimi Hendrix had to leave New York and he went to England.
Right.
He was actually found. He became superstar because he played in England in front of like, you know,
Yeah.
John Lennon and McCartney, and some guy from the Animals found him in New York and it brought him there.
Oh, wow.
He had been playing around the US and he was not really hit. He was playing with Little Richard, he's playing with the Isley Brothers, but he was like a backup guy.
Oh,
He
okay.
wasn't in the front.
Mm-hmm.
And a guy from the Animals, like there was a British, invasion band, heard him
Mm.
in New York and said, "This guy's fantastic. This guy should be a lead guy."
I always say it only takes one ear,
Yeah,
you
this
know.
here's one person hears you, and if it's
Yes,
the right person, then the
exactly.
boom, it happens, it blows up because like that's why you should not be afraid to put your work out. Like I always tell people, like you throw it at the wall because you don't know who's listening. And
Exactly.
if that one like person hears it and they like, wow, I want to get behind that. And people are
Exactly.
like that today. They like they get out there, you get a super fan, you get
Mhm.
somebody say, hey, this person needs to be heard, and then they're telling everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true. Like, so, like anything you do it for real. And if somebody sees that energy, they'll be right behind you. But you don't know who, you don't know when, so never be ashamed to put your art out there. Never be ashamed to, promote your stuff, let people hear you. That's how I think is the best way to do it.
Now, being like having strength as a woman, you've pointed out that there were people that didn't want you to do that. How is it misunderstood? Like, do you still have like that? Like, you've gotten beyond that. You're doing it anyway. But strong women always get resistance from society. Like, no
Yeah.
matter where you go, are you still fighting that fight?
Uh, I'm not sure because I haven't gone home in a very long time. So I don't know what I'm going to face when I go home, but I do know the world has changed a lot. So, and ever since I, broke the ceiling and I made that noise in Thailand before leaving, I know that a lot of girls are different now. My parents tell me about that. I the resistance I received from my parents was for a whole decade before they just started to talk to me again,
Hmm.
not too long ago, and accepting it. Like I was on the Times Square billboard not too long ago. Their reaction was just, you know. And then I'm
Well,
like,
that's like if somebody's got it like their worldview is hard to change, especially like your parents like are hard not
yeah,
to
that.
crack you. It's hard to do that.
And the music video actually hit number one on Apple Music Video iTunes. That was also
Yeah,
reaction.
because if they want it, like it's hard for somebody to like admit they're wrong, especially some of their older generations.
Yeah,
You have to like to admit, like my dad, he's not here anymore, but it's like to admit if he made a mistake, it was very hard for him to
that could
do.
be part of it. So that could be the part of resistance I'm getting. But over here, in America, also the Indian society is different. You know, you have like people like Lily Singh, you have Priyanka Chopra, you have all these, but these women didn't grow up in the Thai Sikh community, the small
Yeah,
community.
because like the Bollywood thing, like that seems like that there's a lot of art there, but
Yeah, because
they're
that's India.
yeah, it's India. Yeah, so you had a sect that like they don't agree with that. They don't want to have anything to do with that.
Yeah, it was different. So they had platforms that they could do that. Like some of them, in India or in America and Canada, the women could speak up without being punished
Hmm.
because you had laws to protect them here, right? But over there, it doesn't really apply.
Oh wow! So you
So
had like the subculture. They like you had they just like yeah. You're living in a community kind of small, but they have a social system,
yes,
and the system was very strict from what it sounds like.
yeah, because you're already in there, then you're in this society of its own. That's its own little sector, and so it was really tough. So to go back to resistance, I don't think that I'm gonna face much over here, but going back home, I'm not sure how they're gonna take it. But I feel like I'm doing the right thing,
Yeah.
and I hope they take it well.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess it's like how significant is the resistance? I mean, some societies it's very significant as
Mm.
long as you don't have any like physical harm or
Yeah,
yeah, because you just like you don't want people going too far if they're that
yeah,
against it. But if it's just like verbally against it,
yeah,
I
yeah.
just don't like the idea of it is
Mhm.
one thing versus people saying like they physically don't want you to do it.
Right, right, right. Well, that was when I was younger, when I was shunned off. It was more like a societal thing. Like, like they telling their friends, I mean, telling their children not to be friends with me because I was
A
outspoken.
social
And,
thing, like
yeah,
social
it
pressure.
was more, exactly. It was more like that, and they would look at me weird. And when I sing, yeah, it was just, but to me, it didn't bother me. It just fueled me even more. Cause
Well,
like,
yeah, well, if you're a radical, like they if somebody tells you no, it's like, I think there's a famous line from a Marlon Brando movie, and
yeah,
he was playing a rebel, and then they asked him like, what are you rebelling against? And he's like, what you got?
right?
It's like it's
No,
anything. It's like just to be the rebel. It's like I'm gonna. If you tell me I can't do it, I'm gonna do it.
right. So this goes back to the artist thinking out of the box again. You throw something at them, they're not gonna go typical. They'll go around and ask you
Yeah,
something else.
it's like yeah. You tell me I can't do it. Like when Dylan went electric, like
Okay.
people said, people in the crowd said like they actually called him a Judas because he was a folkie, and he suddenly went electric, and they were like, we don't like electric, we don't like rock, we like folk. And he
Uh-huh.
said, he went to a folk crowd and played rock, and
Oh,
then they called him a Judas, and he said, well, I don't believe you, is what he said, and he kept on playing,
oh,
and then the critics were like, well, the critics liked it, but the crowd didn't. So it
mm.
was interesting. It's like he had music critics that thought it was brilliant, but the
Right, right.
crowd hated it. And he proceeded to continue transforming from like folk to electric to rock.
Mm.
And
Okay.
it really the alignment didn't really happen until like in the 70s, like in the 60s, the late 60s, like he lost a big folk crowd that thought he was like the new Woody Guthrie, he thought he was new Arlo Guthrie, and then he lost that crowd,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't really get the massive crowd loving that until like the 70s.
Yeah.
But he
I mean,
stayed with it. And the crowd
right.
finally came into his corner and they realized like, oh yeah, that's the cool thing. But the whole time, there were people that didn't like it.
Yeah. That cannot, cannot allow that to influence you. That's the thing about the artist, you keep doing what you're doing until you find the people in your energy.
Yeah.
People gravitate to what you're doing. Like I said, if it's genuine, like he's doing what he believed in until people gravitated to him.
Yeah. And he's at these big festivals and there's like hundreds of thousands of people.
Right.
Versus like in '66, they were telling him they were throwing stuff at him. It's like, no, it's no good.
Oh my God.
So it's like it's so interesting. Even Prince had that. He played in front of a Rolling Stone crowd one
Oh,
time early
okay.
in his career, and they booed him off the stage.
Oh,
Nobody
okay.
can imagine that Prince would ever get booed off the stage, but he
Yeah.
did. The Rolling
Right.
Stones crowd did not like it because they
Okay.
didn't understand him. Because like they were there to see the Stones, and they see Prince, and he's this new wave thing,
Mhm.
and it's like early '80s. They're like, "What's that?" There
Oh,
was a rock crowd again, kind of like the Dylan crowd was a folk crowd. They didn't get it. They didn't understand it. But he didn't stop. You know,
exactly.
became who he. Everybody knows is like, wow, he's an icon. Even icons have to get through that period, and they're not always icons. They have to work to be icons.
Yeah, and then you stick with it. Like, I'll tell you a funny story about this. Like the video, for example, my producer didn't agree with what I was wearing. But for example, I put on the Timbs, right, that
Mhm,
represents New York with the Indian piles. I said, but
mhm,
that's me. And then everybody's like, oh, it's weird. Then I cut up my Indian dress and made it into a skirt. And I wore a black hoodie, the one with under the bridge. And
mhm.
I don't like that. I said, well, that's me. I'm like, they will like it. So I think that's more like what you're saying.
You stuck to your guns. Like if you have a vision of what you think it should be, like some artists will like they'll defer
Mhm.
to the experienced people around them.
Yeah.
Say like, okay, well, I had this vision, but I guess it's not right. If
Yeah.
you really have a clear vision, it's like, no, I
Yeah.
know what I want to give. I know what I'm trying to project, and you
Yes.
stick to your guns. And
Exactly.
there's sometimes that like, oh, a recording engineer might say, oh, we should do this, and we
Mm.
should use a different chord, or we should use a different voicing. Okay, if it makes it better, that's fine. But if you radically change my original idea, like I'm a writer, so
Yeah.
I'm like, I know what I want.
Yeah. 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 You
If
have it in
it
your head already.
so if it doesn't make it sound like it's like you're actually changing it to what you think it should be, but that's not where I am,
Yeah. I know
right?
exactly what you're talking about because we have it in our head already.
Yeah, you know what you want, and some people like especially well, it's not always when you're young because sometimes there are young artists that know
Mhm.
exactly what they're wanting. They you could be a 17-year-old, you know, Taylor
Yeah.
Swift or Prince, and you
Yeah.
know exactly what you want, and then
Yeah.
some recording engineer tells you something, and you say no.
Yeah. That don't
And
sound right for me.
Yeah, and you just do what you're gonna do, and people are like, "Well, how could they do that?" It's like
Yeah.
they didn't go to Berkeley, they don't
Yeah.
have a degree. Like it
Right.
doesn't matter. Like how many people in music have degrees? Like
Right?
most of the great artists, they didn't go to a conservatory.
Right.
They just were kind of born or
Yeah.
made by work. They did the 20,000, 30,000 hours worth of work on their
Yeah.
voice, or
Mhm.
they actually did the work. They practiced. They were in the trenches. They did the work, and they got to a certain point.
Yeah.
Some people see them and it's like, oh, that's an overnight sensation.
Mm.
It's a lot of work. Like your case, like you've been doing work for a long time. Somebody sees you first time, they think, wow, you just came out. You just went from 0 to 100.
No, it doesn't happen like that. It's a process. It's definitely a process. And especially like writing your own song and stuff like that, the story comes from real life. So it took time. Like Rise took all this time to come up with. And if that didn't happen, I wouldn't have had Rise, you know? So everything I think also happens for a reason.
No, when you like a lot of people want to ask, songwriters like, well, how do you write? Like, and I always tell people like, whatever serves the song. Like,
Hmm.
I could write a song where I'm walking on the trail, I get an idea and I put it into a voice memo. I could
Yeah.
have a song like I'm sleeping and I wake up in the middle of the night and then I run over to my keyboard because like something came into my head, and I
Yeah.
run over to my keyboard, which is behind me in my
Yeah.
bedroom, and I actually put it down. Right. Or it could just, it is something I actually am on the page and I'm writing chords on the page. It's like whatever serves the song. Like it might come from different ways. I can't really predict how it's going to happen. Is that like how your process is? Is like just going to happen? I can't tell you like what it's going to be, or do you have a defined process?
No, I don't have a defined process as well. I also go with my emotions and I run to the note. I'm very old school when it comes to that. I go to the notebook and the pen. I love
Oh, you like
writing.
to write it down.
I
Yeah,
really like to write a lot. So when I feel something like, anger, sadness, sometimes even happiness, and like even a tune comes to my head, I'll write it down, I hum it. I don't really use like my phone to record and stuff, but yeah, that's how my writing is mostly done. It's like if I feel it, I put it down. And it's not exactly in lyrics though. It's just it could be ranting. Just me just writing my emotions
like a
down,
flow state. Yeah,
Yes,
I
and
was
then
like, because a lot of people will say, well, like, you know, there's this idea of the muse, like poets talk about the muse. Is that what the muse gave me this? And then
mm,
people today, because the computer, they, oh, I got a download. Like it
mm,
came out like from the universe gave me a download. But it's kind of like I think artists are kind of in tune
mhm,
to like what's going on in the universe.
yeah,
And then also they're in tune, like I said, there's like a stuff going on in your subconscious,
yeah,
right? And you're able to have the ability to pull something that you saw like
mhm,
yesterday or
yeah,
something that you remember from 10 years ago.
yeah,
Something happens and then you hear something else and there's something inside you and you kind of synthesize it and it just happens.
right. You align them together and somehow you create art out of it. The
Yeah,
best.
it's a muse or a download, or as
Yeah.
people call it, like stream of consciousness.
Mhm.
I talk to a lot of writers, like they build like these novelists will build these worlds
Yeah.
and they'll try to do a lot of character design. But sometimes they say, I just go to my typewriter or to the piece of paper and I just let the world kind of just does a download. I just go into the stream of consciousness and a lot of my dialogue, boom, comes out like that. Now I do
Right.
have a structure of what I wanted to do, but I'll
Mhm.
allow that to happen,
Yeah.
and it might inform like something I thought I was going to do,
Yeah.
and this is actually better than what I planned to do, so I'm going to actually use that.
Yeah. Exactly. Evolve with it.
Yeah, you just evolve with it because like you can put the notes down on the tablature, you can put them down on the page, and then when you go actually to do it at the microphone,
Yeah.
then suddenly you say, "Well, no, that doesn't work."
Right.
In
Exactly.
this moment, now it works.
Yeah, yeah, sometimes you have to go with the flow and whatever it works at the moment, select and choose. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I love the process though. I love the process, being able to put those words into a song, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's interesting. Because like poetry, I started like I don't know if you did you ever start with like a poem and then turn it into a song?
Hmm.
Like, or did you always write like in songs?
No, I actually did have a song that I just wrote down the lyrics and then put it in a beat later. But usually I do like to mess with the beats and then take what I wrote before and then match it up and stuff
Match
like
it
that.
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's a stream like if you have a stream of consciousness that just kind of comes and then you get find something that works with the beat
Yeah.
and you kind of riff it.
Yeah.
Like I love that sometimes they would just put a drum machine down and you just riff. You put some
Yeah.
beat down and you just riff over it and you see it. And you might be going for like a half hour and then go back, oh, here's the song. Like 5 minutes into 20 minutes of me riffing around, I
Yeah. Yeah.
found this is the song. Like it's here at like minute 12.5. It's like this is where it is. It's like I found it. And now I'm gonna work on that.
Right, right, right. That's so fun, right? That whole
Yeah.
creative process part.
That's what
Yeah.
I like is like when you, especially also when you work with other people. Like sometimes, like if you're one person operations, like it's all you. But
Yeah.
then if you're working with like a drummer or you're working with like horn players or bass players, is like I could have an idea because I'm a keyboardist and I'm a songwriter, so I might have all the parts written out.
Hmm.
But if the bass player plays something that I didn't write for him and it's better than what I wrote, I was
Right.
like, well, I just like he's a bass player. He's doing it better than what I wrote.
Right, right.
The drummer is doing a better job than my drum machine. My 808 sounds nice, but he's a real drummer.
Of
So it's
course.
like It's like if the real drummer sounds better than the 808, I'm gonna use him.
Definitely. You know, that's definitely something I want to do down the line, like work with like real musicians where like I think that's like one of my dreams. Like to be in that room with like real musicians and playing one instrument at a time, putting the beats together in
Yeah,
the
it's fantastic when you can do it because it's like when you can work with people, like they take your vision. And I think
Mhm.
like a lot of musicians are very respectful. Like you can have an idea and say, well, I hear what you want me to do, but
Yeah,
what happens if I do this?
right,
And then
right.
you're like, oh wow, that works better. Right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
sometimes it doesn't. And then you say, "Well, no, it doesn't." But it's just a cool thing when you actually are in that collaborative process and that happens. It's just so to me, I think I could spend weeks doing that, months
yeah.
doing that.
I really look forward to that one day. And also, you know, working with different artists, right? Like being able to mix your art with somebody else's to create something different, something new. Like that's also another thing that I think is really awesome and I really look forward to doing.
Yeah, like different genres. Like if you had somebody like, wait, what if you had like a jazz guy and then you
Yeah.
have a hip hop guy in a room and then you
Yeah.
have an EDM guy in a room? Like,
Hmm.
what if they all could say, like, what could we do? Right. And
I
then
love
you mix it together and then you're like, wow, that comes out. It's something new.
I love that, you know. I want to try to do that one day, like mix all like the second single, for example, has a lot of Indian tunes mixed
That's
with
cool.
the Western drums, and we use Punjabi tunes and all that. So that's really the core of my thing. I love mixing stuff like
I think
together.
that's a real important point because, like, if you take a cultural influence
Yeah.
and then you bring that in, right? And you have a maybe you have a hip hop vibe, but then you bring your own culture into it. And
Yes.
then you have this new thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's super important because like sometimes people just want, well, I just want to overlay like if you're a blues guy, it's like it's all pentatonic scale, it's all blues. And I'm
Mm.
just gonna play Delta blues. But Hendrix didn't do that. Hendrix knew Delta blues, but he actually put cosmic psychedelia into it
Yeah.
with
See.
Native American, like Cherokee Native American mysticism. And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of why Hendrix is the way he is, because it's like Cherokee mysticism with psychedelia with blues
That's
all
awesome.
mixed up. And it's like, well, that's why it doesn't sound like anything else.
Right? Exactly. You create something totally new, you
Yeah,
know?
and that's so it's important. Like if you take your culture things, like that's your secret sauce. That's you.
Yes.
And
My
if
masala.
yeah, you say, hey, I'm gonna bring that to the table.
Yes,
I think
exactly.
it's super important to like stick to that, your guns on that, like bring you everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, the beautiful thing is, it's not just the Indian culture. Remember the Thai culture too.
Yeah,
Because
you
then
can
I
bring
have
that in.
another song, yeah, that is like more towards the Thai and New York thing, you know? So I want to make sure that I am able to put all of like my sides together because I think we're a new breed, you know, the Thai Sikhs. Because we're, you know, growing up, Indians would never accept us as Indians. They would call us Thais. And the Thai people will call us Indians,
Oh,
right?
so you're kinda in the middle. You kinda got no home there because if they don't accept you in either group, then you get your own thing.
Like if somebody spoke like super fast Punjabi with me, like of course I understand and I speak Punjabi, but like the typical Punjab from Punjab, like it would be harder for me to understand. But Thai for me is like super bilingual, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, you bring that your cultural, like, where you are in the culture, like, everybody's like a melting pot, right? In
Yeah.
whatever culture they get into, and they pick up and you get
Yeah.
these hybrids. You get these
Yeah.
fusion. You get, like, a fusion, fusion cooking is like, things get fused together, they become something else. Some
Exactly.
people might want you to be A, they want you to be B, but you're
Right.
C. You're a mixture of A and B, right?
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
like, I you just like, once you, like, accept it
Right.
and say, like, "That's what I am, I'm not gonna try to be one or the other, I am who I am," right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Then you have a lot of freedom. Like, once you give yourself that permission, it's like, "I am gonna be the all the parts of me."
Exactly. Yes, that's the identity part, right? That's your identity. You have to accept exactly the way it was. So I'm like, yeah, I'm Thai Sikh. You know, I'm a new breed.
Well, that's what makes you like neat music. Like that's your selling point. That's what you bring to the table that nobody else can bring, right?
Right.
So
And
that,
even my sorry, go ahead.
but I think that's how you push it. It's like not that you want to be whoever's in the top 10, whoever's
Right.
hitting, like maybe you want their success, but
Yeah.
you don't have to be them. You can be
Exactly.
you.
Right. I want to go there being myself. Yeah.
Yes.
So what I was gonna say was even my name has a meaning behind it. It comes from my Indian name, right?
Mm,
But the K actually stands for Kaur. Kaur is every Sikh woman's middle name.
mm.
Kaur means princess. And Kaur in our religion actually teaches that women are not behind or under anybody. So that
You're,
whole
yeah.
silencing the women and all that is not, part of the religion. That's why they don't want women to study religion because when they read the book and they're like, wait, that's not what it says.
That's not what you guys are misrepresenting the actual text.
Put K
That
in front.
happens a lot.
Yeah.
That's like a common thing. People read a religious text
Hmm.
depending on what gender they are,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
then they kind of push what they think it is versus what it actually is.
Yeah. So yeah, so make sure that I made sure that I put that in front of my name to represent all my, women that, we could stand in front, we could stand on top, not behind or under.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think everybody should feel like be the best version of themselves and not feel like they have to be in subjugation to anybody. Like you can be a queen or a king. Like you can have that mindset. You don't feel you have to be lower than anybody else. You don't have to be in, like I don't have to be subservient to anybody else.
Yeah, self-expression, like you should be able to express yourself in whichever form comes to you, you know. So I think that's important. If you can express yourself, that's the way you can learn yourself best.
I think music is a great vehicle for this because it's like it's such an immediate art form. Because
Yeah,
in a book, you have to open up and get into. Music, you could just be anywhere.
yeah,
You can hear it anywhere you could be, like, sitting, sleeping in your, you could be on the couch listening, you could be on a bus, you could be walking down the street, and it just immediately hits you, and you get brought into a world after 2 or 3 minutes.
yeah,
Yeah, and I think it's just immediately accessible,
yeah.
where other art forms are, harder to get into. Uh,
Right.
so I think it's cool that you're in this genre of music, and I hope that you're very successful with what
That-
you want to do with your new EP coming. And want to let people know the QR code that's up there is for Neat Music. So if they take their phone and scan that, it will go right to your link tree,
Thank
and
you.
they'll be able to get to all the links that are on your link tree at the moment.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I want and your Instagram's on there. Where you can find Rise is on there, and then I'm sure that once you have your new EP, will be start singles will be there too, right?
Definitely.
I want to thank you for being on the show today. We love to talk to musicians. We have people come back when they have a new release. If you when you have a new single or EP and you want to push it, feel free to contact us so we can kind of have a talk about that if you want to.
Uh,
And I want to thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really grateful. It was really wonderful talking to you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye.